Today, we're going to be talking to Fozan. Fozan is an instructor who teaches classes here at Engaged Agility. And we're just going to learn a little bit about him and kind of where his agile moments have happened throughout his life. So welcome, Fozan.
Well, thank you for having me, Matt.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Tell me a little bit about your agile journey. Where did it start, and what was that spark that ignited your interest in agile?
So my agile journey actually started with the first client I worked with, and when I joined that company, they were actually working in agile, so in an agile manner, and they were doing Scrum. So that group was writing user stories. They were sitting down with their stakeholders. They had the team members included and business as part of working daily with IT. And there was a lot of face-to-face collaboration. So when I joined the company, that's what I started off learning. And as a product owner, that's how I work. Day one, having face-to-face conversation, writing user stories in depth. It was after I finished my contract and moving off to the next client where I learned that there is another way of working where they were doing heavily waterfall work, where I was asked to write BRDs, FRDs, PRDs, you name it, and you would write business requirement 1, business requirement 2, and 3, and then you map your functional requirements to those business requirements. So long story short, that was an eye-opener moment for me that, oh my goodness, I actually started working in Agile, whereas now I'm in waterfall, which is completely different than agile, and things were so much easier when I was in face-to-face conversations with my teams or with my stakeholders or having the group together to have those conversations. So yeah, long story short, that's the spark. So unlike most people where they start from waterfall to agile, I actually went the other way around, from agile to waterfall, and then realizing that, oh my goodness, this is a big difference.
Right. That's awesome. Thanks. So whenever you're teaching classes, how do you help people understand what agility is?
Yeah, when I'm teaching classes, what really helps is, again, sharing examples from my experience. So if there are people in the class who have waterfall background, it's easy to relate with them by sharing that, hey, the environment maybe you're in, maybe you're building some business requirement documents or you're building some project requirement documents. And probably the way you're going about it is, by writing BRs, FRs, and mapping millions of those to your business requirements. While there is another way where you can write user stories and you can have this group together. So another example would be from both worlds, that once you're done in the waterfall world, once you're done with your BRDs, FRDs, PRDs, you hand it off to the team, and now you're most likely your delivery manager is saying that, hey, let's move you to the next project so you can pick up this next highest priority thing and start working on those. So later on, when the team is coming to ask you questions, your response is probably that, hey, I'm on this new project, this is the highest priority, and now there is a gap. So whereas in Agile, you are living with the team throughout the journey. You're writing the stories with them, you're estimating, you're hearing their feedback, in your planning sessions. And then as they build and develop, they're giving you demos, and now you're giving feedback on those demos. And as the product goes into the customer, hopefully you're also part of the validation where you're getting feedback from the actual customer to see, did you really deliver on the business value that you were thinking? So my thought is that, once you share those stories in a very tangible way in class, by whiteboarding, by talking about this BR, FR, and making people feel that you heard, that really helps from the perspective of, from understanding and seeing the gap between the two different practices and mindsets.
No, that's a great approach. Starting where the student is and describing the world that they live in and what the gap might be. It's a wonderful approach. Thank you. Last question here is there some story that you have about people deeply understanding or having some type of an aha moment around an agile principle?
So I was once working with a team where we were sending emails for approvals, and sometimes it took days to get the approvals. And again, going back to the manifesto and having daily face-to-face interaction, our thought was that, hey, why not bring this group in together and maybe we meet twice a week, and instead of sending emails, where we send an email, now we're waiting for approval, a week has passed, and now we're reminding them, hey, can we get the approval? let's just meet and have the conversation and talk about the approvals right there and then. So that helped eliminated the waste a lot. And again, once we get toward the end, we realized that how much time we were wasting in those approvals. So that was the big aha moment, something that came up in our retrospectives. And we were like, hey, just by making that small change and moving away from emails, we have reduced so much waste in the system that we were creating unintentionally.
Yeah, that removal of waste, it's so much fun when people realize how much time they're doing something that maybe that time doesn't need to be there. That's wonderful. Very good. Well, Fozan, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate you teaching classes with Engaged Agility.
Well, thank you for having me, Matt.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.